All right, so you're thinking about adding an Underscore.js developer to your team. That's a really smart move, especially if you're dealing with tons of data in your projects. We're going to do a quick deep dive into some FAQs about hiring these JavaScript masters. Think of it as your shortcut to making a really informed hiring decision. And because your time is valuable, we'll get straight to the need-to-know info.
Absolutely. We want to make sure we're giving you the most important stuff quickly.
Exactly. Now, before we get into it, if you want a super fast way to find your perfect developer, head over to theperfectdeveloper.com and check out the 5 questions. It's an amazing tool to get you started. Okay, back to Underscore.js. Some of you might be wondering, what is it exactly? Yeah, I kind of see it as a set of power tools for JavaScript. It's a library that gives developers all these pre-built functions that help them manipulate data really efficiently. It's particularly useful when you're working with things like arrays and objects. You can dive into all the details in the source material. But for now, let's focus on finding you that perfect developer.
Sounds good. I think a good starting point is understanding what really sets an Underscore.js developer apart from a general JavaScript developer.
Great point. So are we basically talking about someone who's just really, really good at JavaScript?
Well, a general JavaScript developer is definitely multi-talented, but an Underscore.js specialist brings something extra to the table. They're masters of efficiency and writing clean, maintainable code. Imagine them as, like, artisans who use underscores functions to sculpt elegant solutions to complicated problems.
So they're like the master chefs of coding, using these specialized tools to create something amazing.
Exactly. And their skills are still super relevant today, even with all the new advancements in JavaScript. For example, a lot of companies have what we call legacy projects. These are older applications built with earlier versions of JavaScript where Underscore.js was the go-to tool. Maintaining and updating these projects often requires a deep understanding of Underscore.
Makes sense. So it's not just about knowing the latest and greatest, but also having that expertise in the tools that have been powering web development for years.
Exactly.
So if we're trying to hire one of these Underscore.js ninjas, what are some of the key skills we should be on the lookout for?
Well, of course, they need to have a solid understanding of JavaScript itself. That's a given. But beyond that, mastery of Underscore.js functions like map, reduce, and filter is essential. These functions are like the workhorses of the library. They're used extensively in manipulating and processing data.
So it sounds like those are the core tools in their utility belt. Can you give us an example of how these functions might be used in a real-world project?
Sure. Imagine you're building an e-commerce site and you need to calculate the total value of items in a customer's shopping cart. An Underscore.js developer could solve this really elegantly using the reduce function. It would iterate through each item in the cart and sum up their prices. It's a clean and efficient approach.
Okay, that makes sense. So we're looking for someone who's comfortable with those core Underscore.js functions. But what about problem-solving skills? I imagine those are pretty important too, right?
Absolutely. Underscore.js developers often work with complex data sets and intricate logic. They need to be able to think critically, break down problems, and come up with those elegant solutions. Being able to debug and troubleshoot issues is also crucial.
It's not just about knowing the tools, it's about knowing how to use them creatively to solve those real challenges.
Exactly. And strong communication skills are vital too. Often they'll need to explain their solutions to other developers, maybe even non-technical team members, so clear communication is key.
It's all about that teamwork, making sure everyone's on the same page to get the job done. Now, let's talk about something that's always on everyone's mind. Salary. What kind of salary can someone expect as an Underscore.js developer?
Well, like any job, it really varies based on experience, location, and the specific requirements of the role. But to give you a general idea, an entry-level Underscore.js developer in North America, they might start somewhere between $50,000 to $70,000 per year.
Okay, so that's for someone who's just starting out. What about developers with a bit more experience under their belts?
For mid-level developers with maybe a few years of experience, the range usually jumps to $70,000 to $100,000. And for those seasoned veterans, the real experts, we're talking $100,000 to $150,000, sometimes even more.
Wow, those are some impressive numbers. But those figures are for full-time in-house developers, right?
Right.
What about freelancers? Do their rates fall into a similar range?
Freelancers are a different game. They usually charge on an hourly or per project basis. For a junior freelancer, you might be looking at $20 to $40 per hour. For more seasoned freelancers, those rates can go from $40 to even $100 per hour. It really depends on the project's complexity.
So freelancers offer a lot of flexibility. which can be great if you don't need a full-time developer or if you have a very specific project in mind.
Exactly. And a platform like theperfectdeveloper.com can be a great resource for finding both full-time and freelance developers. They have a huge network of vetted professionals with a range of skills and experience levels.
That sounds like an amazing resource for anyone looking to hire an Underscore.js developer. So we've got a good grasp of the skills and salary expectations. Now let's dive into the different hiring options. Should we be looking for someone full-time, part-time, or maybe consider outsourcing? What factors should we be thinking about when making this decision?
That's where it gets a bit strategic. You really got to think about your specific needs and what kind of project you're working on. If you've got a big ongoing project that needs constant attention, a full-time in-house developer might be the way to go. You get that dedicated focus and collaboration is usually smoother.
It's like having a dedicated member of your team, someone who's all in on the project.
Exactly. But if your needs are more short-term, like a one-time fix, a feature update, or something that doesn't need constant attention, then maybe a part-time developer or freelancer could be a better fit, cost-wise.
So it's all about matching the type of developer with the size and length of the project.
Exactly. And don't forget about location. Do you need someone local, or are you open to a global talent pool?
That's a great point. It seems like remote work has become so common now, it really opens up a lot of possibilities.
It definitely does. Hiring locally has its advantages, for sure. It can be easier to communicate, and you usually have that shared cultural understanding. But it might limit your choices, and it can sometimes be pricier.
Especially in those tech hotspots where everyone's looking for developers and salaries are sky high.
Exactly. Now, if you're open to it, outsourcing, especially to regions like Asia or Eastern Europe, can give you access to a huge pool of talent. And often you can save some money.
So it's like broadening your search beyond your backyard to find the perfect fit for your needs and budget.
Exactly. But of course, with overseas talent, you need to be aware of potential communication issues and time zone differences.
Those are definitely important things to think about. It sounds like there's a lot to weigh when deciding where to look for your Underscore.js developer.
There is. But that's where a platform like theperfectdeveloper.com can be a huge help. They specialize in connecting businesses with top developers from all over the world, and they can help you figure out what's best for you based on your specific needs.
So they kind of act as a matchmaker between companies and developers, making the process a lot easier.
Exactly. They handle a lot of the tough stuff, like vetting candidates, assessing their skills, and even making communications smoother.
That sounds incredibly valuable, especially if you're not a tech expert yourself and you're trying to navigate this whole hiring landscape.
Absolutely. It's like having a whole team of experts on your side.
Okay, so let's say we've narrowed down our list of candidates. We've got some promising profiles. How do we really tell the true Underscore.js masters from those who might just be pretending? How do we actually assess their skills?
That's a critical step.
Yeah.
Don't just rely on resumes or what people say about themselves. You've got to see their coding skills in action. Coding tests are your best friend here. Design challenges that specifically require them to use Underscore.js functions. Make it relevant to your project.
So it's about giving them a real-world scenario and seeing how they approach it using their Underscore.js knowledge.
Exactly. Pay attention to how they structure their code, how efficiently they solve the problem, and how they deal with any roadblocks they encounter. It's like a mini audition for the role.
It gives you a peek into their thought process and how they apply their skills.
Exactly. And don't hesitate to ask them to walk you through their code. Have them explain their choices and why they took the approach they did.
So it's not just about the final product, it's also about understanding the logic behind it.
Exactly. It's a chance to check not only their technical skills, but also their communication and problem-solving skills.
And speaking of communication, we can't forget about those all-important soft skills. How do we evaluate things like teamwork, communication style, and their ability to collaborate effectively?
Those are super important. You want someone who's not just great at the technical stuff, but also a good communicator and a team player.
Yeah.
Someone who can really work well with others.
Right, you need that balance.
Yeah. And you can assess those skills during the whole interview process. Pay attention to how they interact with you, how clearly they explain their ideas, and how they handle questions or challenges.
So it's about looking beyond just the coding skills and getting a feel for their personality, seeing how they might fit into your team.
Exactly. You can even ask some behavioral questions to see what their experience has been like working with others. For example, you could ask, tell me about a time you had to explain a complex technical concept to a non-technical colleague. Their answer can tell you a lot about how they communicate and how patient they are.
Those kinds of questions really dig into how someone thinks and approaches working in a team.
Absolutely. And remember, platforms like theperfectdeveloper.com often include insights into a developer's soft skills. They'll have feedback from previous clients or colleagues. It's another really valuable resource that can save you a ton of time and effort.
It sounds like they've thought of everything to streamline the hiring process.
They really have.
Okay, so let's fast forward a bit. We found our Underscore.js superstar. We've made the offer, and they've accepted. Now, how do we make sure this collaboration is a success? What are the key ingredients to making this partnership thrive?
Well, I'd say clear communication from day one is absolutely crucial.
Communication is key in any
Oh, yeah,
relationship, right? Especially when you're working together on a complex project.
exactly. Remember that detailed project brief we talked about earlier? That's your foundation for a successful project. It should lay out the project's goals, the deadlines, all the technical specs, really anything and everything the developer needs to hit the ground running.
Like giving them a map and a clear understanding of where they need to go.
Exactly. But don't just hand them the brief and disappear. Regular check-ins are super important, especially in those first few weeks. Make sure they're comfortable with the project, answer any questions they might have, and offer support to help them navigate those initial challenges.
Those early interactions can really set the stage for the whole collaboration.
Absolutely. And speaking of staying connected, make use of those communication tools we mentioned earlier. Slack, Microsoft Teams, whatever works best for your team. These tools are lifesavers for quick questions, updates, and those informal interactions that build relationships.
It's about keeping that line of communication open and fostering a sense of teamwork, even if you're not physically in the same place.
Exactly. And while we're on the topic of tools, don't forget about project management platforms like Trello or Asana. They can be incredibly helpful for organizing tasks, tracking progress, and making sure everyone's accountable.
It's like a virtual whiteboard where everyone can see what's going on and how their work fits into the bigger picture.
Precisely. Now, going beyond the tools and processes, it's crucial to create a positive and collaborative work environment. Make your developer feel like a valued part of the team. Recognize their hard work, celebrate those milestones, and offer opportunities for growth and development.
Those gestures of appreciation and recognition really go a long way in building a strong and motivated team.
Absolutely. A happy developer is a productive developer, and when they feel valued and supported, they're more likely to go the extra mile to deliver great results.
So we've covered clear communication, regular check-ins, using the right tools, and creating a positive work environment. Is there anything else we should be thinking about as we start this collaboration?
One important thing is to be flexible. Projects change, priorities shift, and sometimes you have to adjust as you go. Be open to feedback from your developer. Be willing to adapt your approach if needed. And remember, collaboration is a two-way street.
It's about working together, being open to new ideas, and finding solutions that work for everyone.
Exactly. And if you ever hit any bumps in the road or need some advice, remember that platforms like theperfectdeveloper.com offer a ton of resources and support. They can connect you with experts, offer insights, and help you navigate the ins and outs of working with developers.
It's like having a trusted advisor by your side, helping you succeed.
Ex-
Well, we've come to the end of our mini deep dive into hiring Underscore.js developers. Hopefully you've got a clear roadmap and some valuable tips to help you find that perfect match for your project.
Remember, clear requirements, a thorough assessment, open communication, and building a solid relationship with your developer are the keys to a successful partnership.
And don't forget, if you want a fast track to finding your perfect developer, head over to theperfectdeveloper.com and give the 5 questions a try. It's a fantastic tool to help you start off strong.
It's a real game changer for finding the right developer.
As you embark on this exciting journey of bringing an Underscore.js developer onto your team, remember that hiring the right person is an investment in your project's success. Choose wisely, collaborate effectively, and watch your vision come to life. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Until next time.